Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the Prime Minister for the advanced copy of her statement. These 26 pages are a testament to the failure of the Tories' bungled negotiations. 19 extra pages, but nothing has changed. The only certainty contained within these pages is that the transition period will have to be extended, or we will end up with a backstop and no exit. It represents the worst of all worlds. No say over the rules that will continue to apply, and no certainty for the future. There is no change to the withdrawal agreement, no unilateral pull-out mechanism, no concessions on the backstop, which would create a new regulatory border down the Irish Sea. Mr. Speaker, did the EU not receive the amendments and improvements promised by the Leader of the House? A little over a year ago, we were confidently told by the government that by the end of the Article 50 period, we would have a trade deal. The International Trade Secretary said it would be the easiest in human history. Instead, we have 26 pages of waffle. This empty document could have been written 2 years ago. It's peppered with phrases such as the parties will look at, the parties will explore. What on earth has the government been doing for the last 2 years? They've managed less than 1 page a month since the referendum. The Prime Minister said nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. It's clear from this document that indeed nothing is agreed. This is the blindfold Brexit we all feared, a leap in the dark. It falls short of our Labour's 6 tests. This government could have negotiated a new comprehensive customs union, giving certainty to business and securing manufacturing industry and manufacturing industry jobs. Instead, Mr. Speaker, they're more interested with dog whistling on immigration. I hope.
When the Prime Minister delivered her statement, she delivered it to a largely attentive and courteous House. Order! I couldn't care less what somebody largely inaudibly and certainly irrelevantly chunters from a sedentary position. The Prime Minister was heard in courtesy. The Right Honourable Gentleman, the Leader of the Opposition, will likewise be heard in courtesy. If it requires the process to take a bit longer, so be it. If it requires it to take a lot longer, so be it. If it takes several hours, so be it. So give up, be quiet, behave on both sides, and let's hear people speak. Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hope the Prime Minister will abandon the sort of poisonous and divisive rhetoric about EU nationals jumping the queue. European Union nationals have contributed massively to this country across all industry and public services, while it is this government and this Prime Minister as Home Secretary who built a hostile environment for non-EU immigrants. Chequers has been chucked. There is no common rule book and no mention of frictionless trade. Our participation is downgraded in a number of European agencies, or we're out of them in their entirety. After more than 2 years of negotiations, Mr. Speaker, there is no clarity over our status with a range of European-wide agencies. The Erasmus scheme, the Galileo project, Euratom, the European Medicines Agency, the European Chemicals Agency and the European Aviation Safety Industry. Or on none of these do we know our final status. Take, for example, section 107 of the document. It says, and I wish to quote from it, the parties should consider appropriate arrangements for cooperation on space. Well, what a remarkable negotiating achievement that is. After 2 years, they're going to consider appropriate arrangements. Mr. Speaker, this is waffle, the blindfold Brexit of a government that spent more time arguing with itself than negotiating for Britain. On fisheries, the Prime Minister and the Environment Secretary have been saying that Britain will leave the common fisheries policy and become an independent coastal nation. Yet, this agreement sets an aspiration to establish a new fisheries agreement on access to waters and quota shares by summer 2020. That sounds to me like we're replacing membership of the common fisheries policy with a new common fisheries policy. It's clear, absolutely clear, that during what will now inevitably be an extended transition period, there will be no control of our money, our laws and our borders, or indeed of fishing stocks for a very long time to come. The Prime Minister stood on the steps of Downing Street and said a deal had been agreed between the UK and the European Commission, and it was now up to the EU 27. Until this Parliament has debated and voted, there is no UK agreement. This half-baked deal is a product of 2 years of botched negotiations in which the Prime Minister's red lines have been torn up, cabinet resignations have been racked up and Chequers has been chucked. This is a vague menu of options, not a plan for the future and not capable of bringing our country together.
Can I say to the right honourable gentleman, I have to say to him that on virtually everything he said in his response to my statement, he couldn't be more wrong. Indeed, I didn't believe that he'd actually even read the political declaration that we've published today, like the withdrawal agreement. He did quote, I know, one sentence from it, I think in an attempt to suggest that he'd actually read the document, where he said there was, which was an example, he said, of lack of detail. Well, perhaps if he'd read some of the other aspects of this document, he would know there is significant detail in this document. No tariffs, fees, charges or quantitative restrictions across all goods sectors. No other major economy has this. Liberalisation in trade in services, well beyond the parties' WTO commitments, building on recent union FTAs. An equivalence decision on financial services, a comprehensive air transport agreement, reciprocal arrangements for timely, effective and efficient exchange of passenger name records and of DNA, fingerprints and vehicle registration data, enabling the UK to participate on a case-by-case basis in common security and defence policy, missions and operations. There's plenty more. I could go on, but I think the right honourable gentleman is beginning to get the message about this. Now, he also talked about where he thought that somehow we hadn't achieved any changes. Well, let me be clear on some of those changes. I referred to at least one of them in my statement. The EU said that the choice was binary, Norway or Canada. The political declaration concedes that there is a spectrum, the extent of our commitments taken into account in deciding the levels of checks and controls. The EU said we couldn't share security capabilities as a non-member state outside of free movement and outside of the Schengen area. The political declaration grants us direct access to some and enables us and promises to enable many others, further commitments than they have made to any non-member state. They said we couldn't preserve the invisible customs border between Northern Ireland and Ireland without splitting our customs territory. The withdrawal agreement maintains the integrity of the UK's customs territory. Again, I could go through some further points. And he talks about the common fisheries policy. Now, this is where I began to think that maybe the right honourable gentleman had read the document but not understood the document or what lies behind it. If we are going to ensure that we are able to continue to have access to the waters of other European member states and European Union member states as we do at the moment, we will need to negotiate, as other non-EU member states do, an annual agreement on access to waters between the UK and the European Union. The point at the moment is that we're not able to do that as an independent coastal state, and in the future we will be able to do that as an independent coastal state. And I also have to say to the right honourable gentleman, what I have been doing throughout this is looking at what the best interests are of the United Kingdom. So let's just go through his other challenge to this, which was the 6 Labour tests on Brexit. Does it ensure a strong and collaborative future relationship with the EU? Yes. Does it ensure the fair management of migration in the interests of the economy and communities? Yes. Does it defend rights and protections and prevent a race to the bottom? Yes. Does it protect national security and our capacity to tackle cross-border? Yes, it does. And does it deliver? Does it deliver?
Mr. Mahmood, we don't need you gesticulating. You're not a football referee or a linesperson. Calm yourself, man. The Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And does it ensure that it delivers a deal that is good for every part of the UK? Yes, it does. And can I just say to the right honourable gentleman, this is a good deal for the United Kingdom. It delivers on the vote of the British people. It brings back control of our borders, our money and our laws. It protects jobs, it protects security, it protects the integrity of the United Kingdom. He may want to play party politics. I'm working in the national interest.